Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the show today. It's comics news today for whew, November 1st. Time is definitely flying. We're coming toward the end of this year. We got ourselves Thanksgiving, then the Christmas, then the New Year's, and then it starts all over again. But of course, I don't know. It's going to be a wild ride, Thundera. What do you think? Do you think things are going to get better with the New Year? Is it going to be magical?
Oh no,
No.
we've only just begun.
Only just begun. Sorry, I couldn't
Yeah.
resist that. Yeah, this horrible 70s. But yeah, no, it's all nonsense. But here today, we're here to talk about comic books, and I definitely got some cool stuff to talk about. But before we get into that, welcome everyone. Hope you guys go over and hit that like and share button and join us and let some more people get in here with us. We do appreciate it. I'm going to do that myself right now. First questions since last week. Have you read a comic book?
Have I?
Yeah.
I think I did actually. What did I read? Damn it, I can't remember now, but I did. I read part of one. I didn't read all the way through. I got bored of it. Oh no, that's not true. That's a bold-faced lie. I read Gunslinger Spawn, the first issue of
Yeah,
Gunslinger
that's why
Spawn,
I
and
said it. I thought you had said you had.
it's
Yeah,
pretty good.
I was kind of that was an easy toss there. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I'm getting old. I don't know.
That's okay. But yeah, well, tell us a little bit about it because you said you're going to read it and you did, which is awesome. So,
Um,
what's the deal? You think?
So it's he's a Hellspawn,
Yeah.
obviously Gunslinger Spawn. He somehow gets pushed into the future, so the story actually starts in like modern day.
Okay.
And he shows up in this city, and he's not familiar with anything at all. Like he's on a motorcycle, he doesn't even understand a motorcycle, stuff like that. Long story short, then they flash back into the past when he was doing gunslinger like activities.
Right.
And they set up a little bit of lore here or there. I don't want to give away too much, but they set up a little bit of lore. One of the big things they set up, which I don't even think it's really a spoiler because it's kind of obvious, is that he's actually the weakest spawn of all time.
Oh, really?
So far, anyway. And yet he's still quite a force. But yeah, so it's pretty interesting take. The way that he fights, like angels and demons and things
Sure.
is pretty cool. It's pretty obvious when you think about it, but it's also pretty cool.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Um,
Yeah, it sounds good. And yeah,
Sorry, my
how?
dog was barking.
No, that's okay.
She but
Um,
he yeah, it's pretty cool. It's not bad at all. I like the character design. It's very McFarlane. Like it's no question that's him. Um, and so far he's pretty good. He's a bit of a badass, bit of a hard ass, which he's supposed to be a gunslinger, so that makes sense. He does a little bounty hunting, stuff like that. I'm hoping they focus more on the old west aspect of it and less on the future stuff because I don't really
yeah.
care about the future stuff. We already have Spawn in that era. I would love to see an old west focus, but we'll see how the story unfolds. It's
Well,
pretty good. I recommend it. It's expensive, but I recommend it.
yeah, they are getting expensive. But I mean, if they kind of tell us a story of how he ended up in the future, that would stick in the past, so that would be cool. But
Yeah,
the fish out of water thing is pretty standard. Whether it's cultural, it's being done culturally, or it's being in this case being done anachronistically. However you do the fish out of water, it's always a good element because it gives you so much storytelling opportunities. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Of course, I knew you would. I'm using you in the past with my prophetic nature to tie into a story today, if you don't mind.
let's do it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but and we will get into that. I personally this week was back and reading a little bit of Alpha Flight, which I haven't read in a
Nice.
long time. I kind of liked Alpha Flight. Of course, you had the Gamma Flight, Beta Flight, Alpha Flight, whole thing with the Canadian government until they canceled it, and then they kind of did it unofficially, et cetera, et cetera, that whole thing. But I thought it was neat that they were trying to show superheroes from other places doing their thing, but they were afraid to go any further than across the border into Canada. Because
Mm.
why didn't we have more stuff set in Japan or China or India or England or Germany or something like that? I would love to have gotten more of that. And the interesting thing with that, since I love talk about board games and tabletop gaming and stuff, is the fact that a lot of your superhero role playing games, the tabletop ones, um, uh, will often set themselves up with international teams and the dynamic political interaction between them, because there's so much you can do with it. So all the tabletop gaming saw the use and value of it, but the comic book people themselves didn't, which is weird
Hmm.
because you'll get like you got Sunfire for instance. He's a Japanese superhero. He'll show up every now and then. So, but that's fine. But why isn't he just doing something in Japan? Why don't we just have Japan stuff? You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean that would be
Right.
cool. Because the only other real foreign stuff you get are things that are fantastical. Wakanda, Atlantis, the blue side of the moon with the immortals and stuff like that. Eternals of Titan. Oh my God, did I mention the Eternals? I shouldn't do that.
Uh oh.
Uh oh.
Uh
Anyway,
oh. That's not good.
yeah, it's not good, but it does sound pretty interesting, Adrian. I think I'll have to check it out too. I usually like to get him a few comics in before so I can just sit down and read three or four of them. Um, let's see. I read Doug Ernst Soul Finder, Black Tide last week. How was it, Dave? Tell us about it. And Roger is hoping that the new year doesn't start off with slavery. I can't guarantee anything, brother. It's it is what it is. Anyway, let's get into it. Here we go. All right. So I'm with the comic book show here. I've decided that every week I'm going to try to talk about a new character, and just to kind of have a general discussion regarding that. And let's go ahead and do the one I want to talk today. Now, since I was just mentioned, I was reading Alpha Flight.
Mm.
I did enjoy the Alpha Flight stuff, and one of my favorite characters is kind of an obscure character that a lot of people probably don't know, particularly if you're not really a deep comic book nerd, and that's the character of Box. Now, the guy in the wheelchair there, I think his name is Charles Box or Richard Box or Bach, and he just called his robot Box. Now, originally, it was just a robot that he controlled with a headgear, but later, he got in contact with a mutant by the name of Madison Jeffries. And of course, if you're reading modern X-Men the past so many years, you know who Jeffries is better than in Box, I'm sure, because he's been in the comics quite a bit. But he's a mutant and has the ability to control metals and electronics and things like that.
Mm.
And when they got together, because he got discovered with his thing, and they were like, okay, let's try you out. They put him in Gamma Flight, and he was doing pretty good there. They were going to move him up to Alpha Flight, but then the Canadian government canceled all that. But of course, then the unofficial Alpha Flight went and recruited him anyway. And yada yada yada. There's a whole bunch of drama that goes on, and and eventually ends up dead. So this is a dead character. But I always liked the Box character. I don't know why. Probably just the design. But before I continue on with his story, you ever heard of Box?
I have not.
Yeah. Uh,
He looks suspiciously like a kind of like a fat colossus.
yeah, yeah, but this right here is a complete robot body, though. It's
Yeah.
just a robot that he's controlling telekinetically with a technology, right? He wears his like
Mm.
headgear, right? But of course, as I said, Madison Jeffrey helped him rebuild a broken box, and it became this. And this right here is probably what most people would recognize
Mm.
over the original one. Now, this one's a little bit different because he would actually be inside of it. So this is more like an Iron Man suit in a way. Um, and because he's piloting it from inside, so it's a little bit different. And he's also cyclically merged so his actions are much more natural and quick and stuff. But this is probably the more I think more people would recognize this than the other one, right? But the story continues, and the problem with Madison Jeffries and his brother Lionel, because Madison can control electronics and technology, and his brother Lionel can control flesh. He can shape flesh and stuff like that. The problem is Lionel's insane, and well, Madison's a little bit troublesome as well. But he kind of got in with those guys, and it's what ended up him kind of almost going a negative way, and he got his heart broken by Aurora. But in the end, he came back and stood up against them, and of course, he died because of it. However, his final iteration was an actual complete merging with the machine. And this was the final look of Box before he got killed. Now, I don't like this look at all. I
Oh,
can't. I
yeah,
don't.
that's trying too hard. That's what I think.
Yeah, yeah. I don't like it, and I don't even think that is Box. I think that's Madison Jeffries standing right there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't like the look. This is way too normal. This right here is different. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was this fairly short-lived character. I mean, he was only around a decade or so. I don't know the entire length, but I don't know. I don't know if it's design or what, but I just really like Box. I identified with him more than any of the other Alpha Flight, other than Wolverine, but he was hardly there for a second, right?
Mm.
So
He's a cool looking character. I've just never really. I don't think I've ever read any Alpha Flight. If I did, I don't remember it. Or I barely like vaguely remember it. But yeah, he's an interesting character. I like this design here you have up right now. I think that is
yeah,
unique enough.
yeah,
He looks kind of like a top-heavy thing,
yeah,
but metal,
yeah.
and I like that. I like that idea. That other design is. It looks too Star Wars. Like the face looks like a Mandalorian helmet or something, and it's just I don't know. It just doesn't mesh well with the
No,
universe that
I
he's
didn't
in.
like it at all. Yeah, I thought I
Yeah,
think they thought they were being slick, but it just takes away the uniqueness of the character. And Dave
yeah.
says, I think I have a Marvel Universe update with him in it. Yes, you do. I have that entire collection, and he's definitely in there. Because back when I was young, and we were playing Marvel superheroes quite regularly, every Wednesday, I think, is when we played it. I actually would make my own characters mostly, but occasionally I'd play character if we were doing a one-off, right? I would play characters straight out of those books, Dave. And I played Box several times. And he was a fun character to play. It's in a game setting, and that's kind of cool too. Because if you think about it, if you're sitting down and you're playing a tabletop game with a character, you're going to get an understanding of how effective and how useful that character would really be, because in a role playing game you're given difficulties, challenges, and you have to figure out how to get around it, and you're limited by what's on the sheet. You only have available what's there. Can you solve the challenge? And this character is quite effective at doing lots of things, because he's not only big and beefy and strong, he's also very smart. So you can do lots of different things with him. And it's weird, but sitting down and role playing a character actually gives you a much better feel for the character than you would just reading the character. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but whatever. I just wanted to highlight a character every week, and I thought, well, last week we did Wolverine, and everybody knows Wolverine. I thought I'd do something today that's not as well known. Anyway, this is the good box. This one's fine too. No, thank you. No, moving on. Here we go.
Marvel hypocritically plays up racist stereotypes, announces new Asian Iron Fist to replace Danny Rand. It is strange to me. Somebody made this point the other day. Most non superpowered, which I guess Rand kind of technically does have superpowers,
Mhm.
uh, most non superpowered, like mutants or whatever,
Street level.
heroes, street level, are martial artists.
Yeah.
And some are grandmaster, as almost as good of fighters as him in Marvel, and yet that's fine. But for some reason, Iron Fist has to be Asian to these people.
Yeah.
It's just he must be Asian. All these other ones who are using martial arts from all over the world, that's fine. That's fine. Nobody's saying Bruce Wayne needs to be, Chinese because he knows some kung fu and he was trained by, you know,
Ip Man
assassin.
himself. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's saying that. But for some reason, Iron Fist has to be. He just has to be. He
Yeah.
must. In fact,
Well, in the comics, in canon, he's not as good a fighter as, say, Shang-Chi or even Daredevil. His
yes.
Iron Fist does give him an advantage, and his money also gives him an advantage in some cases. But you know how I mentioned earlier, where because I went and read the little blurb for Gunslinger Spawn, and I knew we were going to read it. I heard you said you had read it, so I went and read that, and I noticed that he was in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's another form of fish out of water. It's just an anachronistic one, right?
Yeah.
And and that's why I set all that up for this right here, because the whole point of the Iron Fist character is he's a fish out of water character. He
Yep.
doesn't belong. This is the whole point of the character. Now, if they want to continue the dragon bearer, right? You know, which is what he
Hmm.
is, the the dragon bearer of fire, or whatever it's called. Then you can make a new one. Sure, go ahead. You know, fine. But why is he Iron Fist though?
Hmm.
You know, but he can't be white. And SJW Joshua has got the answer for us. He says
Uh,
Iron Fist can't be white. That's racist. Only Asians can be ninjas. Well, I would say that would be a Japanese thing more than say
yes.
an Asian thing.
And
Yeah,
Chester, while he wasn't a ninja, and he probably wasn't actually technically a samurai either,
hmm,
there was, in a very well-known account of a black retainer to Oda Nobunaga,
yeah,
who they call a samurai, but he wasn't really a samurai, most likely. He probably wasn't titled and everything. But he definitely served with samurai. He fought around them and trained with them and
sure,
probably beat the shit out of some of them. And I don't understand their objection. Like, this has happened historically where somebody found themselves in a place they wouldn't normally belong,
right.
and they adapted and became a very respected, one of Oda Nobunaga's most respected soldiers, and one of his best representatives and things. uh that can happen. Like, that happens in real life all of the time.
Sure.
And yet for some reason these weird bigots, because that's what they are, they just can't handle this one particular character where that was the story, right? He basically found himself in a situation and overcame it, fish out of water, and became something more because of it,
Yeah,
and earned people's respect, right?
yeah, sure.
Can't have that. No, he's gotta listen. He comes from China, so he's gotta be yellow. We can't have him be white. He's got to be yellow. That's the
Yeah.
rules now.
It's just dumb and silly, lack of understanding and actual racism. Just to
Yeah,
touch on the Japanese thing a little bit, because they are the most xenophobic people on earth, I think, as far real, actual, modern first world civilization wise.
yeah,
But back before the Tokugawa shogunate took over, there were a lot of foreigners running around Japan,
yeah.
right? And when Tokugawa finally won that war and took control, and a little bit over a course of like 70 years, shut down his family shut down Japan completely. What they did to kind of get favor, and of course they were quite brutal. They followed the path that a later dictator would do as well. His name was Hitler. But
Hmm.
see, the scapegoat in Japan were the foreigners, particularly the
Yeah,
Christians, right? So
yeah.
Hitler and them used the Jews, and he used the Christians and the foreigners. So there were a lot of them running around, and there were many of them that took up the sword practice, martial practice, and were quite good at it, right?
Yes. So my point is, this not only could happen, it did.
Yeah,
Literally did happen.
yeah,
And there was no. I mean, Yasuke. That's the this guy I'm talking about, the black guy. He was one. It's even said he was one of the strongest, if not the strongest warrior in that time. He was an amazing fighter.
yeah.
And he was, they thought of him like a giant because he was probably like 6 foot 6'2".
Well, sure.
He was
You can pick
taller
him up
than,
and throw him down the street.
yeah, he's way taller than most of those Japanese men.
I know how he feels.
Yeah, so he was respected for his acumen was respected,
Yeah.
and there's no reason why we can't have modern versions of that story,
No.
and there's no reason why we couldn't have that story. I don't know why they've never made a comic book about him. His life sounds awesome. That could
Well,
be an awesome comic book.
and they get upset every time this happens, unless it's a black guy, because we have an anime with talking about him.
Yeah.
We have the Afro Samurai and stuff like that. They have no trouble with that. It's just when the
Mm-hmm.
white people are involved, which
That's
and
right.
it's kind of ridiculous because the majority of these fish out of water stories in Asia are whites, Europeans. The black
Mm-hmm.
guy is quite unique.
Yep.
But it happened in China too. Another thing about Marco Polo, you all know who Marco Polo is, but did you
Of
know that
course.
he was highly trained in the courtly combat? Did you know that?
I knew he was very well. I knew he was trained. I don't know about how highly. I'm sure he was. I'm
He
not doubting
was.
you. I'm just saying I did never heard if he was like how skilled he was, but I knew he had taken a great interest in it, as
Sure.
I think is basically how he put it. Um, because it was unique. It was new. He'd never seen fighting like that before. That's not how they fought in Europe.
Yeah. No,
And
that's true. Yeah. But I mean, he loved being over there. Initially, it
oh yeah,
was tough for him because he was basically traded as exchanged as a prisoner in a way,
yep,
a political prisoner. But in the long run, he really enjoyed it. The only reason he left there was because of a woman, of
of
course.
course,
But
always is.
he was highly trained, and so when someone going to make a comic book about the battles, supernatural battles of Marco Polo, because they talk about
That'd be
him fighting
sweet.
demons and stuff, right?
Yeah, that'd be sweet. I mean, you could tie in. Think about this. You could do an out of time story and tie in some Asian mythology, tie in some legendary characters like Marco Polo, like like the black guy. You could do all sorts of stuff like that, and then you could meet your diversity quota because you could have a little bit of everybody. Because everybody's been over there. China was the center of world trade for thousands of years, off and on. Like there's everybody, the Romans traded with China. Like it's not, there's definitely instances of non-Chinese people in China or in the East doing things. And you could just do something so cool with that. You could play with the Asian mythologies a little bit, and you wanna get into the Chinese markets and stuff. Try it once, and without pandering, because the Chinese people don't like it when you pander. They see right through
No,
it,
they don't.
and it
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Actually, Dave, he would have probably, we don't really know the details of it, but seeing as that was under Kublai, that would have been the Manchu or the Manchurian government being formed. He
Mm,
probably would have trained more in the Mongolian stuff than he would have in the Kung
yeah,
Fu stuff. Because to be fair, the Mongols not only did they not respect the Kung Fu stuff, they thought it was useless. And oddly enough, today it's been proven to be true.
yeah, it's pretty useless. It's
Yeah.
too much dancing.
Yeah.
Uh,
But then what you're
Most
doing,
fighting just breaks down to wrestling and boxing, and then maybe if
yeah,
you're lucky, you can get some kicks in. But
yeah. But now what the chat is trying to do, they're trying to bait me again. They're trying to bait me into a explanation of the beginning and time of the Tartar Empire. I see what you're doing, chat.
man, there could be just so much cool stuff, man. Like you were saying, Marco Polo, they talked about he fought demons and he did all this supernatural stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe he did. I don't know. But let's see it. Let's make something cool with that. Let's make a cool comic book about an out of time comic book, meaning you can pull from different mythologies and different eras and things. And for whatever reason, all these different things are brought together, and they have to handle something. That
yeah.
could be cool.
It would be.
But no,
And the reason why he had these battles, supposedly, I don't know if they're true or not, was because one of his first missions he was given by the Khan was to create a map. Because I guess
yeah,
he had a little bit of experience with that, and the most complete map of the world they had at that time for them in the Manchu Empire was from him. He traveled for years and years and years all over the place, all over Asia and even in the West, at creating with a huge team and entourage, creating maps. And during those adventures is when he supposedly ran into demons and stuff like that. So an actual more in-depth, more fantastical look at Marco Polo could be fun. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But
Um,
nope, we're not even allowed to have Iron Fist be a white guy because reasons. And if you disagree, somehow you're the racist.
mhm.
Um, Even though the whole point of him was that he came to love and cherish, East Asian cultures
Yeah,
and protect them.
yeah,
But hey, he's not allowed to protect anything because he's a white man, and white men are always the bad guy.
they are.
Chester,
They are
always.
always. Yeah.
I don't know what they're gonna do if enough white men are like, okay, and just decide to be the bad guy. What's the answer then? When you call something a monster enough and it turns around and is like, okay, I'm okay with being a monster.
Yeah.
Then what do you got?
Well, it's happened before.
Yes.
Uh, there was a show called Marco Polo. Was there?
Yeah.
When?
Just recently. I think it was like was it a Netflix or HBO show? It was one of those, like something like that, I believe. I don't think it was on regular TV. It might have been. I could be wrong about that, but
That's cool.
it was okay. I don't think it lasted very. I could be wrong about that too. I don't watch TV, so I don't friggin' know. But I do remember hearing about it, and that is cool. They did try a couple for a long time. They tried like a bunch of different ancient era, like Roman and whatever
Oh
shows,
yeah, I saw a
and I
Rome
don't
one.
think, yeah, not too many of them actually went anywhere. They maybe win a couple seasons and then just petered out. That's a
Well,
shame because you could do so much cool stuff.
Well, I think the true life story of Marco Polo is pretty interesting,
Yeah.
especially when if you take it and you compare it to the documentation from the Manchu court to the book he wrote, because the book he wrote was a little bit self-aggrandizing, right?
Yes.
But the if you compare that to the courtly records of him, because there are, right? He was a real person. You get a better look at it. But even the courtly, the Manchu stuff still puts him in a fantastical light, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, why not? It's a fun character, I think. But anyway, moving on. Of course,
It's
this
just
little
silly.
boy.
It's
He's
silly.
Asian now. Sweet, the best Iron Fist ever, ever. And why is it on his back? What was he doing? That's not how you do that. Yeah, you're supposed to carry it in the front. Dumb kid. Okay. Anyway, now this right here. Well, go ahead and read the headline first.
This is great. 9 Image Comics employees form a union. Okay. Demand the ability to cancel titles based on their moral judgments.
Okay. I'm actually going to get in and read this article. I don't do that a lot, I know, but I'm going to do that now because I think this is an interesting view, and it's important as I read this. I want you guys to catch this headline and understand what it's telling you. 9 Image Comics employees. It doesn't say artists. It doesn't say writers. It says employees form a union and demand the ability to cancel titles based on their moral judgments, which is the eighth of their demands, actually, number eight. However, yeah, and it's important because as you come down here and see, these employees announce and they want to they formed a union and they're demanding improvements and let's understand exactly what they mean by employee. The union, called Comic Book Workers United and represented by the Communications Workers of America, announced their establishment on their website and on Twitter. Of course, that's important. They wrote, "We, the workers of Image Comics, have formed a union. For years, publishing workers have watched our professional efforts support creators and delight readers." Okay, so we, the workers, supporting creators. What does that mean? Are these
Uh,
secretaries?
Apparently, they're personal assistants.
I'm just curious because it's not the printers because that's done
The
by a printing
mailroom
company.
guys.
Is it mailroom? Is it secretaries? I mean, what is it? Because if they were editors, if they were like boss level editors, well, they would say that. There's no way their ego would let them not say that, right?
Well, and
So
if they're editors, they already have that power.
they
They
already
just
have
be like,
that power,
listen,
right?
no, you're not printing this. It's stupid.
So
Do it again.
we can assume they're secretaries.
Yeah, they're the janitorial staff.
Okay, so now we understand who we're talking about. Let's
Oh,
get into their comments and their demands because this conversation here would be very different if it were the editors or the artists or the writers or the
yeah,
colorists, whatever, uh,
inkers, just
inkers,
anybody that's involved with the creation of the product.
right? Where these guys, they think they're very important, and I'm not saying that they're useless because I'm sure there is something in the line of creation that they're involved with, but just because you pick up an envelope and walk it down the hallway doesn't mean you're part of the creation team. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
anyway, let's see what they have to say. Sadly, we have also watched that same labor be taken for granted at best and exploited at worst. Keeping our heads above water was the new normal before the pandemic. Okay, so you're low paid secretaries. Okay. And since its onset, we have been expected to take on even larger workloads with fewer resources. More phone calls? Our workforce and the comic book and publishing industry as a whole is overtaxed and undervalued, they continued. Yeah. Hi, okay. All right. This is detrimental not only to general staff, but also to the creators we are paid to serve. Huh?
I don't. Do they have whores on the payroll at Image? Is what is happening?
I know. Why don't I have whores on my payroll? God damn it.
They are paid to serve is very weird language. That's not how you talk about a job. Where
Yeah.
you're like if you're not serving customers, okay, yeah, you're serving a customer, but that's different. What is these people's profession?
I know it's confusing, right? And it doesn't improve. It gets worse. Watch this. And the audience, they in turn work to entertain. They entertain. We don't entertain anybody. We serve the entertainers. Okay. Our labor is integral to comic book industry. Maybe. It requires specialized skills, dedication. What specialized skills? Dedication and makes quality publishing possible. The union claimed. What specialized skills do you have? You're not creators. You're not editors. You're secretaries of some kind. Honestly, we could make the other people.
Receptionists?
Well, we could make the other people around you just do more of their own stuff and just get rid of you altogether, which is
Yeah,
probably
or
what
just
Image should do.
get robots. I mean, we've been automated. Pretty much all of these jobs have now been automated with very not as much of an investment as you might think. Man, there are some people in for a rude awakening in the next
Hmm.
10 years. It just
Yeah.
rude awakening with how little their skill set actually matters. That's
And
all I'm
Adrian,
saying.
it's true, but Adrian says interns. I don't think they're interns because it sounds like they're getting paid something.
Yeah,
An
it could be
intern
paid
doesn't get paid
interns.
anything, right? That's I don't think so, Adrian. But I mean, I don't. They don't really tell us what they are. They just say they're integral somehow. They want to. We love what we do, but loving what you do doesn't mean you can't or shouldn't ask for improvements to your work conditions. Okay. It is with this in mind and with great hope for the future of Image Comics and the comic book industry itself that we announce our intent to form a union and request voluntary recognition. Okay, alrighty then. Then, they stated, this should not be radical or revolutionary. Keep that in mind, please. Please keep this in mind. This
Oh boy.
should not be radical or revolutionary and is, in fact, a natural development for a company that started the way Image Comics did. Now, they go in and explain how Image began. Now we all know, though they had a
Yeah.
bunch of guys that were over at Marvel and they were pissed off they weren't getting paid enough, so they came together, formed their own company, and start putting out their own shit. Okay, we know the story of Image, right? And they absolutely blew the big two out of the water for a while until they got their shit together, right? Okay, so I don't need to read all that. But that's they're just they're going on that and saying is this idea of rebellion is coming from them. Well, you just said this should not be radical or revolutionary, did you not? Anyway, let's look at their demands. And they're also talking about the industries always try to keep unions out, and it's like, yeah, I think there are many unions in comic books, actually, brother. Anyway, but here are their demands. Okay, you ready? We got 9 of them.
Oh
Okay.
boy.
And here's these people. I guess I could go and look up their names and see what type of secretary they are, but whatever. First, they want to foster a more competitive industry as a whole through salary and workload transparency for all existing and proposed job titles. Employees industry wide should know what they and their peers are working for and what they can expect from future employment. What does that mean? Can you explain to me what that means?
No.
The only
I
thing I
don't.
can
They
really
want
get
more
out of it,
money.
they want more money. Yeah.
Yeah, they were saying a lot of words to be like, listen, we don't get paid enough.
Okay. Fair enough. You can ask for a
Fine.
raise. All right.
Yeah.
Fine. Um.
Nothing wrong with that. Think you should be paid more. Everybody should at least the the effort.
Yeah. Sure. You can
Go
ask for
for
more
it.
money. All right. Guy, you
Yeah.
read the second one here.
Improve staff morale through annual staff and management reviews to assess performance, workload, and whether there is a clear need to expand a department, craft a new role, or increase compensation. Oh boy. Increase compensation for employees who have taken on a larger quantity or more complex suite of tasks. So you want performance reviews.
That's what they want. Yeah. Why would
Why don't you
anyone
just
ask for
say,
that?
can we maybe have performance reviews? We think maybe it'll help us communicate better.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, they're so verbose.
I used to have to
Verbose.
when I was back in the States. I mean, I do it now, I guess, kind of. But when I was back in the States and I was working in the government, I had to do performance reviews every year. And I've never met any employee ever that would want one.
Yeah.
Have you?
Um. Yes. The only you usually in my experience, it's just my experience. Usually, it's either men who are in a very high turnover industry or women, like neurotic women who want to, they're very insecure women. I guess would be a better way to put it.
Yeah.
So, like when I was working in car sales,
Hmm.
a lot of the guys were very much about monthly reviews or 2 month bi-monthly review because it helps you get a gauge of where management sees you. And okay, fine, it's because it's a high turnover industry. Like 92% of people wash out within 3 months, stuff like that.
Sure.
Um, I get that. That makes sense. But only in a situation like that. I cannot possibly imagine that whatever these people's job is, we still don't know, has a high turnover. It just, call me crazy. It sounds like a fairly secure position once you get it.
Yeah. I guess I'm looking from the other side because I'm the one that was doing them.
Yeah.
And I never liked it because I know you guys think I'm just some super hard ass, which I guess I am. But I do have compassion,
Mm.
right? And it's never fun telling someone you suck.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
I didn't
not
like doing it
fun,
either.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was managing a fairly small company, only about 10 people work there, but it's just not fun. It's not fun because most people don't think they suck. Some people don't care, but most people don't. A lot of people will come to work and actually try, and they just aren't good at what they're trying.
Yeah.
And that's not fun to have to tell somebody
No.
because how do you tell somebody they're incompetent without hurting their feelings?
Right.
What?
No. Yeah, it's tough. And I mean, it's not like I was had to do thousands of them like some companies
Yeah,
do. I was only doing like 150 a year. But that sucks, dude. Well,
yeah.
okay, they're asking for it. That's once again strange demand.
Care-
But
Careful what you wish for.
it also shows what their value is to image, though. If they're not even bothering to review you, then you're literally just a secretary. You're just
You're a
doing
cog.
minimal stuff, and they don't really care as long as it gets done. They're
Basically, you're getting paid to do the work that they cannot be asked to do. It
yeah.
is for their time, it is better to pay you to do it than to do it themselves.
And keep in mind, this is 9 people. This is not hundreds of workers or people associated with image. It's 9.
Which cannot possibly be that big.
I don't
It
think so.
just can't possibly be that large of a company.
I don't really know because everything is done on subcontracting and the way they do it, it probably is pretty small, I'd imagine. Anyway, let's
Yeah.
continue. Thirdly, the creation of a more transparent company culture through monthly all hands meetings so all staff can better understand both the current and future priorities, responsibilities, and workloads of other departments. I personally have in the past and do currently have weekly meetings, not monthly
Yeah.
ones. I think that is very important that everyone's on the same page, and it also in those meetings it gives you the ability to ask questions and kind of address the things that they're talking about in number two. You could really put these both in together as one point. So I don't know once again, but if Image isn't doing this, it really speaks more to what the value they have. So if you're all a bunch of secretaries, it means you're under an editor, and the editor is responsible to make sure this gets done. So I'm sure the editor's having meetings, and the editor or whoever your boss is the one responsible to make you get it done because it's not your responsibility, it's his, right? So
Yeah.
any communication he has is directed to you. And so I think what we're looking at here is a disconnect with low level basic employees, paper pushers and stuff like that, phone call answerers, getting too big for their britches. They think they're more important to the maintenance of the workload than they are. Because I guarantee you the editors are having meetings,
Yeah.
right? I'm sure. But I mean, this is enlightening us. They're showing us who they are with this thing here. And keep in mind, this does not need to be radical or revolutionary. Should not be, right? Okay. Number 4, go ahead.
Number 4, increase knowledge retention through the implementation of detailed record keeping and procedure documentation for all tasks deemed essential to any given role. These documents are to include detailed and explicit descriptions and instructions for all expected job duties.
So
Explicit.
explicit, yeah.
It's a big
What?
word.
Well, I'm just trying to understand, right? I'm trying, and I'm sure the chat is trying to as well. It just keeps coming on to me more that these guys are basically the secretaries of the editors. And the editors are the ones that need to keep detailed records and all that stuff. But you, in your process, doesn't, because all you're doing is what the editor or your boss, whatever department you're in, needs doing. So after
Yep.
everything is gathered from you, and the one or two people he has helping him, then he keeps the records of his doings in regard to the chain. Am I wrong? Am I seeing this wrong?
No.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what they're asking for here. So they want explicit instructions and descriptions and instructions.
Hmm.
That sounds like the same thing, but okay. For their jobs. So were they hired on without knowing the role of their job, or and maybe this is what it is, and benefit of the doubt because I have no idea. Maybe
Yeah.
the managers who are handling them, right, suck and they just
Maybe they
constantly
could be
shift
that.
around what they have to do every day, and they get mad or they get angry at them or you know what I mean, get upset with them if the thing that wasn't even their job yesterday didn't get done today. Because
Well,
I've had managers like that who constantly move the goalposts around on you. Like, whoa, wait a minute! I came to work to do this. This is what we
right.
talked about. I didn't agree to do everybody's job. That happens.
This is why I think it's secretarial, and I mean in the
Yep.
traditional sense of secretary, not this, not the phone answerer, right? I'm talking about an actual, the definition of secretary, because I have a
Yes.
secretary, right? And she can do different things every day depending on what I need. There isn't a actual job description other than do what I ask you to do, and I'll pay you money for it. I mean, that's it, right? And
Hmm.
so she could be making phone calls. She could be picking up lunch. She
Right.
could be dropping money off in a bank. I mean, she could be doing anything. And my wife does that as well. Her job is very similar. She does everything. Right? It
Yeah.
isn't. She's not sitting there and just making coffee and answering calls. She does that too. But she'll also make those bank runs or go to do this meeting or translate this document or call Panama or whatever it is she's got to do. And my secretary does the same thing. She's my additional set of hands, right?
Yes.
And from reading this article, it feels like that's what these people are. You have these editors, and okay, today I need you to do this and this. Tomorrow's different. But they
Right.
don't like that. But it's like, well, but that's your job.
Yes. Which, fair enough. If you don't like that, then find a different job. Uh, One that has a more defined role, which those
Yeah,
exist. Those
they
are out
do.
there. You go to a job and you're not expected to do anything else but the job you signed up for, which is, personally, I would prefer that too if I was working in labor, in actual menial labor. But if you agreed to it, and I guarantee there's no way they were hired onto these jobs and not told something to the effect of "and various other duties," right? Was on the
Right.
job description. There's no
Probably.
way that happened. I don't believe Image is that unprofessional. Maybe they are, but I don't believe that.
Well, and
So
when
come on.
yeah, no, I agree. And when I was in the States, I had two secretaries, right? One was
Yeah.
more of what most people's image of a secretary was. She sat and answered phone calls. That's pretty much all she did, and did some paperwork in the office. She was a secretary, we are our modern impression. But I had a guy who was my secretary as well, but he traveled with me. He was at my
Mm,
side the whole time, and he would do all different kinds of things, right?
right.
I don't know. Let's see if we can get more information as we continue with number 5. Go ahead.
Number 5, where they at?
Next.
Improve. Yeah. Next, they state they want to okay, improve career mobility for all staff through stricter adherence to the company's stated intent to offer open positions up to qualified existing employees prior to opening them up to the public. Okay.
Well, they just said that to shut you up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they
Yeah.
want to be able to become the editor. Okay, I get that. I get this one. I don't
Yeah.
mind
I
this
don't.
one.
I don't disagree with that at all. I actually agree that most companies should do that. If you hire
Yeah.
somebody in, they should have upward mobility, and if they don't, well, then why are you hiring them in?
Yeah, no. And I think if you can hire within the company, it's always better. So all
Yep.
right, that's fine. Number six, let's see, continuation of remote work. Now this one I don't agree with. You're
Mm.
not an artist. You're not a writer. You're a staff that needs to be on hand. But anyway, let me read it. Continuation of remote work for any employee who requests it. No, fuck off. And the creation of a detailed policy outlining how the company provides reasonable accommodations and supplies for remote employees. Why? The pandemic has removed the necessity for the company to pay for a central office space and utilities. No, it has not, little one, with employees in some cases now shouldering 100% of costs that should listen to this shit. All right. Shouldering 100% of the costs that should be shared by the employer. Costs such as internet, power, furnishing, and other office supplies. So you want them to pay your rent.
Right.
That's what this is. I want to be able to work at home, and you should pay for my rent and my power bill and my water bill. You should pay for my life. Computer
Yeah.
hardware. You should buy me a computer and related maintenance costs. My lunch, right? And
Uh.
listen to this shit.
Uh. That. What?
That's what they're saying, dude. That's what this is. Don't
Oh.
be fooled by their language here. They're saying that you don't need to have an office anymore. Yes, you do. A center that people can focus on, send things to, go in and interact with, have meetings is essential. Running something that is 100% in the ether, you can do it, but you don't wanna. You really should have a center, a base, a headquarters. It's very important to the mentality, the psychology of a company. And you are not something that can be external by choice. An artist or a writer can be, because you have a timeline, get it in. We want to see proofs by this date, et cetera, et cetera. You can do that. But the office must be maintained and operated in situ, right? And
Mm.
what they're saying is that's not necessary. They should be able to stay at home. And not only do they want more money, they want you to pay their rent too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Handy
No,
asses. You're right, Roger. I am reading what you guys are saying, by the way.
that's
But
silliness. That's silliness.
yeah,
I agree to some extent that some jobs probably could be shifted to a much more remote basis or partially remote. But also, you have to take into account here's where that's a two-edged sword. Why would they pay you more, which is what you're asking them
yeah,
to not come to work?
yeah,
If anything, the benefits of being able to work from home, and they are great, are far outweigh any costs you're going to incur, most likely, if you're working from home, especially if you're doing, things through the internet and whatever. It's a preposterous. It's just
yes.
lunacy, is what that is.
This
It's
is
just
the
pure lunacy.
this is the first one that actually pisses me off. The other
Yeah.
five are either are from reasonable to just not understanding a professional world. I mean, because a lot
Yes.
of this is they just don't they want to be something that they don't really understand how to do. This is just childish or inexperienced comments. And the number five one I don't disagree with at all. But this is just silly. You're silly. Stop it. Okay. Number seven. Go ahead.
In seventh, they appear to want to increase the size of their union by demanding more staff be hired.
Uh,
So they quote, better overall product through the immediate addition of staff, particularly in production and marketing. Why would
uh,
they have any say in production? Uh, our creators, retailers, and readers can expect white glove attention for all the books we publish.
wow.
Books which will go to press with fewer errors, fewer delays, and a more robust marketing presence due to a more strategic approach to staffing in reasonable proportion to the actual quantity of output we generate. How, okay, gentlemen, ladies, people, I need you to explain to me how more bodies equals more efficiency. If you're already inefficient now, which is what you're saying right now, that's what that says. They are inefficient as a company.
Yeah,
More
their
people,
work ethic is inefficient, is what they're saying. Yeah.
exactly, more people aren't going to fix that.
No,
It's
it's
just going to
just
get worse.
it's way more burdensome, yeah,
Yes.
more costly. Yeah, that's what I mean. These are children; they don't understand what it takes to actually run a business. And this is the problem. Everyone has a right to an opinion. That doesn't mean you've earned it. And this is a perfect proof of it. These children are speaking from a point of view, and they don't understand what it actually takes to run a business. They don't
Yep.
understand. It's just like the bleeding hearts that want to do this or that, and they don't understand that one, who's going to pay for it, and but two, you're causing actual harm by doing it, right? And yes, I'm talking about the Democrats and their stupid welfare programs, but this is more of just childish stupidity. This is not how you do it. You increase your efficiency by making your workers better, right? And you're the one bringing it up. If there was a problem, this was coming from the boss, I would listen more, because the boss isn't complaining about efficiency. The boss isn't complaining about sales. You are. And who are you?
Right.
Do you even know what the total sales are? Do you even know what the overhead costs are? Do you know anything whatsoever? You're the
Exactly.
lowest level worker and you're sitting there acting like you know what's going on.
So what it sounds like to me is I don't think they're in production. I think that they threw in there as kind of a bone,
Yeah, no, I
right?
think that's a separate company, actually. Yeah.
I think where they're probably at, a lot of them, or at
Marketing.
least marketing. They're in the marketing department and they feel that they need more help and they also need more pay. I would disagree wholeheartedly. I think if you're the time you add on more is when it's time to expand.
Yeah.
You don't add on more because you're inefficient.
Yeah,
That's
that's true.
ridiculous. What you do is you get rid of people when you're inefficient. You find people who are more efficient. That's usually the way that's solved, or you find a way to help them be more efficient, whether that's through, a different managerial style or whatever.
Yeah.
Regardless, efficiency is a personal problem. The idea that it's a business problem, unless it's from the management's position, like the managers are inefficient, which is very possible. I don't work there.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Um, unless it's from the top, which it often is, unless it's from the top, adding more people to the middle isn't going to solve it. Even if it's from the top, that's not going to solve it either. You have to find the reason you're inefficient. The reason you're inefficient is not there's not enough people. Now, there could be a reason you're not fully efficient is because there's not enough people, meaning
It's
you could
possible.
do more if you had another hand, but that's not the same thing, and that's not what they said here. What they
Yeah.
said here is they're not getting things out in a productive manner.
Yes, that's
That's
what
on
they're
them.
saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
and keep in mind, basically, they're just asking for more money here. They're just being long-winded about
Yes.
it. And the thing is, I don't know that you need to create a union in order to get more money, because
Yeah.
you're not in a position that is of necessity that a union would be useful. They could fire you all and hire new people. If the artists were doing this, this would be a completely different conversation. But it's not. It's the worker. It's the secretaries, whether you're in marketing or not. You are the people who are doing the little stuff, and it is important. It's not unimportant, but you would have been much better for you to sign a petition and go to your bosses saying we want more money, because that's what it's about. You want more money. This whole union thing, I don't know if it's going to work out for you, dude, because you don't have any push, right? Union, you have to have push. Like if you got a factory and they form a union and say we aren't going to work unless you do this, that's push, right? Leverage, right? But anyway, all of this stuff up to now, whether it be irritating or silly, whatever, I don't mind. But this right here, number 8,
Uh-oh.
this is the one. They want a long-term actionable plan to address the overall lack of diversity in both general staff and management. The authors, artists, and readers who bring comics to life have been homogenous, and the stories I doubt that's true. And the stories we publish can only be improved by staffing our organization in a way that more accurately reflects the demographics of our creators, our readership, and our nation as a whole. And just go ahead and read the ninth one, because it should have just put in the same breath, because it's the same thing. Go ahead and continue.
Renewed commitment to company values through the addition of a collective voting option to immediately cancel publication of any title whose there needs to be commas. Any title whose creators have been found to have engaged in abuse, sexual assault, racism, and xenophobia. Oh wait, what? Okay, homophobia, transphobia, anti. It's like they.
Yeah,
Wait a minute, I gotta stop. It's like they forgot some, and they're like, oh wait, we got more.
yeah,
Anyway, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, ableism, etc. You could have
etc.
etc'd a long time ago, but all right. Until such time as said creators have engaged in meaningful reparations towards affected persons.
Okay. So 8 and 9 are basically the same thing, right? Actually, this whole thing could have been 3, but it's 9 because they're long-winded and they think they're smart and clever. But anyway, so what do we got here? They want more people of color now, and they use the word homogenous here. Now, you guys know what the word homogenous means. It means all the same. You cannot, in no way, tell me that Image is homogenous. There's no way it is. It's impossible that it is. Now, is it homogenous in the fact that everybody's American? Okay. All right. But what does but I mean, come on. You can't and I don't know. I've never walked into their offices, but do you really think everyone in there is a white heterosexual Christian man?
Oh, if only.
Do you think?
No.
No.
I bet you they're not even. Of the creative staff, I'd be surprised if they're not 50% white, and if that, and then the rest some other
Yeah, in a country that's
thing.
nearly 70% white, how shocking. But let's go back
Yeah,
and look at their names real quick. Let me see if I can deduce anything from because these people work here too, right? They're calling
yeah.
themselves homogenous. That's what they're calling themselves, right? So Ryan Brewer sounds very English. Conter sounds like a continental name. Isaaca sounds like a Jewish name. Fitzgerald is definitely Irish. Gifford, okay. Ramos, that's a Latin name. Another Ramos. Schefflerman is definitely
Wait, why are there
continental.
two Ramoses? Are they
Brother and
related?
sister, husband and wife, something like that. Erica Schnatz, so a couple of Germans in there. These yourself who are speaking to us are in of yourself diverse
Yeah.
and not homogenous. Other than if you're just saying American. If American is homogeny and you want non-Americans, we'll just say that, right? But that's, whatever. This is stupidity. It's dumb. You can't demand who works for a place. They hire the people that can do the job. So stop this nonsense. And I don't believe a word you're saying. But this is disgusting. You have no right to say anything. You are a secretary, you're in marketing, you have nothing to do with editorial, you have nothing to do with creation, and we all know that Image Comics puts out all kinds of stuff. Some of the things
Yeah.
are interesting. Some of them are extremely progressive SJW crap. We know they are very diverse. They're over the top diverse in image in their thinking. So your nonsense is just that. It's nonsense. How far do you want to go? Does every comic need to be about some black transgender lesbian in a wheelchair? Is that really where we need to be? Is that who you are?
Apparently, that's representative of the world around us, Chester. You see, that's their old canard too, right? Because they twist that old Marvel saying that we have to make comic books representative of the world around us. Okay, I live in that world. You know what I don't see everywhere? Gay people.
No.
Don't see them. I
No,
mean, they're
how
out there.
often? Yeah, they are, but
Occasionally,
when's the last time you
but
ran into one?
it's pretty rare. Even in a city here. I live in a city.
Yeah.
And especially not trans people. Holy crap! I think I've seen two in my whole life, and one was a family member.
I've
Uh,
never met a trans. I've met a transvestite, but I've never
yeah,
met a transgender ever, ever.
the idea. And then if you look at these books, you would think that at least half the country was black. The idea that that's what they want is silliness. It's nonsense. It's not diversity. It's not inclusion. It's exactly the opposite. It is exclusion. And it is whatever the opposite of diversity is, not homogeneity, but somewhere in the middle.
Yeah,
Because we know for a fact what they mean when they say these things. They mean
sure.
get rid of the straight
And,
white men.
and exactly. And the etc. I mean, well, first of all, what is the etc.? Well, I mean, you said they should
Whatever
have
they
done it
want.
earlier, but I'm saying it should be you should lay it out exactly because who's making these decisions? Who decides what is xenophobia? Who decides what is transphobia or anti-Semitism or Islamophobia? Which I don't even understand why that exists.
It doesn't.
Ableism, a fucking ableism.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Jesus Christ, these people are stupid,
None of
man.
these things exist. Transphobia is not real. Xenophobia is the only one of those things that's a thing.
It is.
I mean, sexual assault, yeah, but
Well,
that's about it.
it's
Racism
cultural.
isn't actually what they say it is. It's not real. It never was. Homophobia isn't real. Nobody's homophobic. Nobody's transphobic. Anti-Semitism, I guess, is real, but again, it's mostly cultural. Islamophobia is, I mean, the besides communism of the last 100 years, there's no greater ideology that's been a threat to mankind
Mhm.
than Islam, and it's not even close.
No.
Like direct death in oppression,
Yeah,
they win. They've won that game by a wide margin. So I don't think it's fair to be, discourteous to people who maybe are just a little leery of said religion. I don't know. That
yeah.
seems a rational reaction to me.
And to
But
keep in mind, the most anti-Semitic people you'll meet are the Zionists.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
It's nonsense, and the reason why the etc is there is because then anybody who offends them in any way at any time they can cancel. That's
yep,
the goal.
that's the
And
goal.
you know how I know that's the goal? Because they showed their hand. You could think most people would say, well, etc. They were just trying to end the sentence, whatever, right? Well, then they go on to say until they've engaged in meaningful reparations toward affected person or persons,
Hmm.
not affected people, an individual person. So that means if you just offend somebody, they can be like, nope, nope, your book's done. Your career's over because you
Yeah.
offended one person.
And keep in mind that when we're doing this, at first we're looking like, okay, these are just idiots that don't really understand business and they just want more money. Okay. But as you're going along, when you get to the finally, just like when you go see a show and the last band is the big band, it's the point. It's the reason you're there. The last comment is the reason you're here. This is what they really want. They want
Yep.
power. These secretaries want the power to decide what the company publishes. And I know Image is so woke, they'll probably do something and they'll apologize and they'll do all kind of dumb shit because that's who they are. However, if I were the boss, I'd fire every one of you immediately. Immediately. And I'd restaff you easily because your jobs are not hard. The only reason you have your jobs is because the other people are busy and they want someone to do these little things while they're doing the more important things. That's it. Because I guarantee you this company could run for months, maybe even years, with the editors doing your shit, right?
Yep.
But I mean, they won't. They won't. But I know that this took a long time going through all of this. But I really wanted to sit down and read this because it just shows you the mindset. You have uneducated, capable people or incapable people that are demanding of the capable. And this is the thing I tell the kids in my school all the time. And I tell the university kids the same thing. More importantly, I tell the university kids the same thing. A child that is in school, they, whether they say it or not openly or not, even if they enjoy school, they have this vision that when they hit 18 and they graduate school, their study is over, right? Like, whew, finally done, right? Moving on, right? Your study is never over. I am 51 years old and I study every day.
Yep.
Every day. Your improvement of yourself never ends. Now, that could be physical, it could be mental, it could be spiritual. All of these things are important for your stability. They are. But you never stop learning. You never do. These people stopped learning a long time ago because they have their opinion and that's all they need. They don't need to study it or improve it. My opinions have changed in my life because I've learned more, right?
Yeah.
These people don't. They're stuck in a prison of their own idiocracy. And that's the reality of what's going on in the world because we've seen this a lot. And I thought this displayed very clearly what the secretaries are doing all over the world. In the first world, it's the low level people that are demanding shit. And the thing that's shocking to me is the big bosses, they used to just fire people's asses and they would bring scabs across the line, right? That's how they used to deal with this shit. But these days, they are bowing to the pressure of their lowest paid worker. And it's like, what are you doing? And you wonder why you're losing money.
Yeah,
And who am I? I'm nobody. I'm just a little dude sitting in the countryside with a small business. I'm nobody. And
yeah,
yet, even I know this. I don't
yeah.
know.
It's nuts, man. It's a level of entitlement that I don't even know how to. I don't even understand. I genuinely don't understand it. It's oof,
It is
oof.
ridiculous. But I'm sorry. I had to do it. I was compelled.
Good. It's good.
So now we need a refresher. We're gonna talk about something potentially fun. Are you ready? All
Let's
right,
do it.
moving on.
Let's do it. Morbius gets synopsis ahead of new trailer release.
Okay. Now I don't know about you guys. I know we can't get excited about stuff these days because who knows? Sounds like Dune was pretty good. Thundero
Yeah,
said. So,
pretty
but
good.
we're in a thing right now where we can't get excited. We have to wait for reviews, right? I mean,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's where we are, right? I would love to have a. I've always enjoyed Morbius. I would love to have a great thing, and I'm not. I haven't seen Leto do anything good so far, but I think he could be a good Morbius. It's possible, right? And
Mm.
when I read the synopsis, it made me happy because, well, it is the Morbius story. You can go ahead and read it.
Dangerously ill with a rare blood disorder and determined to save others suffering his same fate, Dr. Morbius attempts a desperate gamble. While at first it seems to be a radical success, the darkness inside him is unleashed. Will good override evil, or will Mobius succumb to his mysterious new urges?
Yeah. Now, and that's Morbius's story. So okay, good. We're sticking to the comic books. It's straight up what he is. He's a doctor. He's trying to cure his own illness, and in the end, spoilers, he ends up making himself a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't his intention, but it's what happened. And then the Morbius comic book is about his struggles of his vampirism, his synthetic vampirism, but also trying to do good. And ultimately, he does start using his powers to help people. And that's the Morbius story, right? Okay. Now another story I have here later coming up. We've gotten a little bit of information out of the Moon Knight movie that's coming out, or series. I don't know. I think it's a movie, and the main protagonist, or excuse me, antagonist, is going to be Dracula. Okay,
Dracula.
which is cool. That makes sense for Moon Knight. Definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, keep in mind, well, Werewolf by Night is where he's coming from, right? And I'm kind of thinking Dracula might be introduced in this movie. I mean, it would make sense, wouldn't it? Because this is coming first, and it's
Yes.
vampire related. So maybe the way he cures himself is inadvertently using Dracula's blood, or something happens along those lines. But I have a feeling that they're going to introduce Dracula in this movie, whether it be in the beginning or at the end. It might be at the end, just at the end. But I have a feeling because Dracula is coming. Now, I'm kind of that which brings up 2 points, and we can cover it later, I suppose. But well, we might as well do it now. What do you think of now? Dracula's definitely been part of Marvel history, right? He's definitely in the comic books quite a bit, right? And in
Mm.
the end, it was Magneto that forced the vampires out, oddly enough. But what do you think
He had
about the
enough of
idea
their.
of
He had enough of their shit, Chester.
he did, but it's odd that it's Magneto, right? But what do you think about the idea of bringing a classic character like Dracula into the movie universe? The comic books aside, what do you think about doing that, though?
I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. I think it depends how they do it. Just now, just you talking about it, I like the idea of Mobius is doing his experiments and he gets some like blood or something he's told is blood or something a blood from he thinks it's from somewhere else and he comes to find out like at the end of the movie
Yeah,
that it was Dracula's
yeah,
blood and that's why this happened to him. That could be cool. That could be a nice little twist. It could lead right into the Moon Knight movie and then you have a lead in. See, Marvel used to know how to do lead ins to their next movies at the end of their other movies
right,
and it worked. Worked for
yeah.
10 years. Was a great formula. I don't know if they still have that ability, but we'll see. Um, I think that's a good idea. I don't hate it. I think Dracula has become synonymous with vampires to the point that just about every major vampiric lore
Mm.
and vampiric myth set has him at the center of it. So even in ones where he wasn't originally, he just pops up. Like, so why not? Why not? Like, I don't see anything wrong with that. I think Dracula is such a great character. He's so iconic. It's pretty hard to fuck him up. It's been done, but I think it'd be pretty cool, especially if it leads into like a dark Marvel like dark side set of the MCU where we get Morbius and
Well,
we get Moon Knight and they're fighting Dracula and creatures like that start popping up, and there's a million different ways you can explain that and fit that right into the narrative too when you think about it. How do you fit that in? Well, real simply, we have a multiverse now.
well,
There you go.
that's true. Now, I'm not sure. Now, I understand this is Sony. I get that, Joshua. But
Yep.
they're not really completely separate from each other. They're still not. They're still collaborating.
Yep.
And so you're right. I get your point. This could have nothing to do with the Moon Knight thing. You could be 100% right. I'm just speculating because they still have the crossover feel to them, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
And Morbius, I don't know how in the hell that got attached to Spider-Man, but I guess but it did. But it just makes sense to me that it would play over in that way. We don't know the contract that they have between each other. We don't know what's existing or what's still happening. So you could be right. It could have no connection whatsoever, possibly. But it just sparked my imagination when I saw that because it makes sense,
Yes.
you know?
And yeah, I know. They're already crossing over. I mean, they already crossed over Spider-Man. They're getting ready to cross over Venom,
Yep.
uh,
Yep.
which doesn't make any sense,
But
but
they are.
whatever.
Yeah.
Not getting into it. So they could very easily do that here. Now, I'm not saying they're going to. I just think it'd be cool. It'd
It
be
would
kind
be
of cool to
cool.
have like a dark side of this Marvel MCU, whatever you want to call it, whatever they're calling it now with the Sony integration. Uh, that'd be pretty cool because there
Yeah.
is some pretty cool. Some of Marvel's best storytelling is actually when they get into that like underworld
Yeah,
darkness
the
stuff.
old horror comics, because
Yeah.
that the horror comics are really where the Comics Code Authority came out of, and that stupid psychologist and all that or psychiatrist and all the crap that was going on that created that. And Stan Lee was really miffed, and I'm sure Ditko and Kirby were as well. Really miffed at this crap telling us what we can and can't do. And him trying to at least a little bit dip his toe back into the horror world created a lot of interesting stuff. Blade came out of that, right?
Yeah.
And if Morbius does cross over with Moon Knight, which I really feel it should, then the new Blade coming out, it might cross over too. And even if it doesn't, Blade is coming out under MCU. So that how could that not have Dracula in it? If Moon Knight's got to have it, Blade's got to have it, right?
Yes.
So I
You
don't know.
think?
You would think, but seeing as we know that they're still crossing over and they're still doing stuff, I think that would be cool. Now, who knows? But I'm trying not to get excited for this. But I really want a cool Morbius movie, dude. I really, really want one that's just a fun movie and doesn't have any of this stupid politics. It's just fun,
Yeah.
please.
I'm telling you, you need to go see Dune. I think you'll appreciate the fact that it's just a well told. It's a movie that is secure with itself. It doesn't lean on a. I mean, there's some funny moments, but it doesn't lean into that. It doesn't lean into any tropes. It doesn't. It just tells a story. It tells pretty much just the story of Dune.
Yeah,
And I was so happy when I walked out of that theater. Not because it's like a great film or anything, but let's be honest, the story of Dune it's good, but it's not like it's just not. It's not the best story in my opinion in the world. However, the world that he built was unbelievable.
yeah,
And this
that's
movie
true.
does a fantastic job with that. It feels like you're in a different world. It feels like you're dealing with different problems that are still very similar with betrayal and all this other stuff. It has, I think Dune is going to be one of the break points in culture away from that nonsense. It's already happening, and there's a rabid anti woke movement that's growing. They're starting to dominate in the music industry. Even there's rappers who are out here. They took over the music charts with a "Let's Go Brandon"
I
song.
know, right? Yeah, that's funny.
Uh, it's happening. The wave, the pendulum swinging back, and Dune is a great example of that. Aside from the weird thing where there's no redheads allowed, everything else is it's just Dune. I mean, on honesty, and I appreciated that. I was very glad of that.
Well,
So I hope that that's what we're going to get out of these, especially since they're smaller movies, right? They're not designed to be the big mega hit ones. I think we're just going to get good stories because
maybe.
this story could be, if it's done well, and Leto, when he can do this. This is a perfect role for him. It's good casting. I think this is going to be a good movie. I think
I
the
hope
the new
so.
Batman movie is going to be a good movie, and I think this is going to be a good movie. And I don't think you're going to see too much woke shit, other than maybe a black James Gordon, which whatever. I like that actor anyway, so
He
whatever.
is a good actor. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm fine, and I'll check out the new movie. I'm sure. But it just irritates me that they keep retelling this story when the majority of the Dune saga is about his progeny,
yeah,
not him.
yeah.
So I don't know
And
why we
maybe that's
can't
what
get
the
to that.
second movie will jump to. Maybe
Oh no, that
because
would be 1,000 years jump, dude.
I'm telling you, I'm telling you, this movie's bold. It's a bold movie. He clearly was trying to make the new Lord of the Rings. That's what he was trying to do.
That's cool.
Uh, I don't know if he succeeded. I would say the Lord of the Rings, the first one, is a better film, but I've watched that 100 times, right? So it's an unfair equation.
Sure.
So if I were to watch it again, I could have a better assessment. But
Yeah.
that's what he was going for. He swung big, and I think he did a good job. I really
Well,
do.
I love the look of Villeneuve's movies. I do.
Yeah.
I really do. But anyway, fingers crossed. I know. Stop it, Chester. But all right, moving on.
Open 40. Oh boy, look at this guy. Look at this name. Eternals actor Kumal Nanjiani. That's just nonsense words. Sets up tired Hollywood narrative in case Eternals flops at box office. Of course.
Okay.
That's why they did all of this. That's
Well,
why they did all the race swaps that don't even make any sense. Most of them,
sure.
because that's their buffer now. That's what
Yeah.
they do, right? This is their coping mechanism, so that when it flops or doesn't do well, they can go to the board when they have to talk to the board or they have to talk to the shareholders. Like, well, it's because racism
Right.
or whatever
And
nonsense excuse they have.
and he was chosen. He was chosen. Jesus. He was chosen because of his ethnicity. So let's
Yes.
take a look at what he has to say here. Then he's kind of setting
And
up.
I will say this, fair play to him. He got himself in crazy shape for this movie.
He
He did.
did. And
He
I'm going to talk about him
shredded.
a little bit in a second here. But let's see what he said. Go ahead.
Looks like we're upsetting the right people. Eternals opens November 5th.
Who are the right
Okay,
people?
the critics, because this idea that it's been review bombed, the only people who were able to review it at this time, I don't know if it's still the case, but at that time it was, were professional critics in publication.
Yep.
That's not a review bomb, that's your movie bombed. That's what that is.
Yeah. Yeah. And Adrian, I know you're all angsty. I don't know why aren't you in here being angsty. You can come in here and be angsty. But let's talk about Kumail Kume Nanjiani. Let's talk about this guy. Who is this fella? Because do you know him? Do you recognize him?
Seen him in other things, but
Okay.
I wouldn't be able
Well,
to pick him out from a lineup.
I went and researched the man.
Oh no.
Let's see who he is. Now, this guy is not Indian. He's Pakistani.
Mm.
He was born and raised as a Shia Muslim. He left Pakistan because he's a rich boy and came to America and went to university in America. He immediately became an atheist when coming to America, which means he already was, right? He's a rich, Pakistani Muslim kid, is who he is. So he's not Indian. He's not part of that culture at all. Now, I know some of you say, well, Pakistan used to be part of India. Yeah, used to be. Yeah, it's a 100% Muslim culture, guys.
Yeah.
But now he came over to America. He went to university. He graduated with degrees in computer science and philosophy. Okay. And over the next decade, he did whatever he was doing, but he also had podcasts where he played video games and D&D on podcasts. And then in 2013, he finally got a role in a movie, and he's been doing little bits here or there. This is probably the biggest thing he's ever gotten. So here you have a guy who is clearly not an SJW, but for the right
Yep.
amount of money, he'll
He's
say whatever
anything
you
you
want
want him
him to
to be,
say.
Daddy.
That's right.
Call you Daddy. He'll call you Master. He'll call you whatever you want for that money, for
Whatever.
that check.
Whatever, right? So
And you know what? More
that's who he
power
is.
to him. If he wants to be a whore, cool, bro. Cool story, bro. We got you. Hey, it's fine.
He didn't flee Islam, Adrian. He did not. He's a rich boy who's came over and just made more money and more success and more happiness in America, which good on him. I agree.
Which a
Uh,
lot of them do, right? They,
yeah,
they use the pretext like they're, oh, we're trying to not be oppressed. Uh huh.
yeah.
Uh huh.
But it's just the reason I mention this. I don't really care about those things. But everyone's saying he's some Bollywood actor and stuff. No, he's not. He only started doing acting 8 years ago, guys. He's new to the game, and he's always only done it in the States. He has no connection whatsoever to Bollywood, none at all.
And
Uh,
he looks
And
like somebody who'd be in Bollywood. That's about it.
he doesn't really look that Indian to me at all. But nevertheless, he might have some mixed blood in him. But the reason I bring it up is because he's just doing what he's got paid to say, and that's it's so obvious, and it's obvious with others too. Here's another example. Go ahead.
Giancarlo Esposito
Great
says
name.
his favorite, it's a great name. Says his favorite, the Mandalorian co-star to work with is Gina Carano.
Now, hold on a second. Wasn't he be Mr. Progressive woke just a week ago?
Just a minute ago, yeah, he was all about that race stuff.
Now he's best buds with Gina?
But hey,
Really?
that takes courage because no one else aside from Bill Burr had the balls to say they even liked the woman.
Well,
And even though while she was on the set, they had nothing but nice things to say about her. All loved her. She's a a ray of sunshine. She farts gold and pisses vodka. Like she's the best thing since sliced bread. As soon as she got canceled, though, well, I don't even know who you're talking about.
she
Who?
does sound like a
Who?
nice lady, though. She does sound
She
like
is.
she's not
She's
a
a
pain in the
sweetheart.
ass. Yeah.
She's clearly a sweetheart. Like you can tell. Just watch her. Just watch her. Unless she's the greatest actress in the world, and we know she's not. She's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Genuinely a sweetheart.
But to be fair, her acting's fine. I never had any trouble with it. I mean, she's not a great
Yeah, she's
actress.
fine.
Sure, not.
Yeah.
It's no problem. It wasn't
Yeah.
awkward or B level. It was fine. But my question is, as with none a Pakistani man, where's the truth, Esposito? Where's
Where
your
is it at?
truth? Which is it? Is this the truth or is that the truth? Well, how do we know?
Oh, Mr. Giancarlo. He's such a great name. I love that.
It is
Uh,
Giancarlo Esposito. It's awesome, dude, and he's a good actor too.
oh, he's a great actor. He's one of the best actors around. What do you need him to do? You need him to be intimidating? He's got that. You need him to just be fun? He's got that. I've seen him. He's just got crazy range.
He is good.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, it's silly. It's silly how many of these people who it's performative, right?
yeah.
We know these people
Well,
don't believe this stuff. We know he doesn't believe this stuff because he hasn't lived it. If half the stuff that they say about America being a land of white supremacy, then why is this black Hispanic man so famous? Why is he on multiple television
why is he
shows and
so
in video
respected?
games and so well respected by those evil white people who love him in all the stuff that he's in?
Mm.
If we're all white supremacists and don't like the brown folk, explain yourself, sir.
When I was a little boy, I don't know, I was really little. My grandfather, I was sitting on my grandpa's lap watching it, so it was younger than 7. And I remember watching a documentary on, I don't know, maybe it was 60 Minutes. I don't know. It was something on TV, and it was talking about pop music, and it was a pop music documentary, and it was showing like the Beatles when they first came over, and it was just it's kind of typical TV made for TV documentary about music. And I remember at that time it came to my head because I saw it was the Beatles specifically, on stage. It wasn't the Ed Sullivan one. It was just a stage thing that had been taped, and them doing their music, which is fine. But the girls, it was just a room full of girls that were so overly excited that they were passing out. And I asked myself, as a little kid, I was just a little teeny kid, right? Why? I've never understood this fandom thing. I enjoy movies. I can respect an actor who's good at what they do, or a musician who's good at what they do.
Yep.
But they're just people.
Yeah.
I never
They get
understood
revered,
this. Yeah.
revered like gods. I don't get it either. I know people who lose their shit if a certain actor dies, and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
I don't get. I've never understood that. There have been a couple celebrities where I kind of get it a little bit, but that's just because they have been around for so much.
Yeah.
Some of the people these people lose their minds over are newcomers, or are, they've been in maybe one or two things and they became obsessed with that one or two things. And it's like, guys, calm down. Just relax. But at the same time, even still, I don't think, I can assure you, there's not been a actor who's passed who I was broken up emotionally over.
No.
Maybe I gave it a, oh, that sucks. But
Yeah.
that's
No,
about
that's
as
true.
far as it went.
Yeah. Yeah. I never understood this. The whole Bieber mania, for instance, for a more
Oh,
modern look
God.
at it. You know, okay, he's cute. Okay. Why does it go any farther than this, Karens? I
Yeah,
don't understand. I never understood this thinking. And you give way too much power to these people with actors particularly, their job is to lie, right?
yes.
That's their whole
They're
job. The
paid
better liar they
liars.
are, the more the more they get paid.
That's right.
So why do we care? I just don't understand. Yeah.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Chester, if you look at my screen real quick, I just went live, as they say.
Uh-huh.
Um, hang on one second here. I want to show you just we were talking about Dune, we're talking about all this nonsense, all this woke stuff, right? Well, here's the perfect example of Dune's effect on the journalist class. If you take a look at my thing here.
I'm showing it. It's displayed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perspective. The Washington Post's headline: Perspective. The novel Dune had deep Islamic influences. The movie erases them. Hold on. NBC News. Dune appropriates Islamic and Middle Eastern tropes without real inclusion.
Huh?
Well, which is it? It cannot be both.
Well, I mean,
It can't be both. You can't have both. You don't get both. You get one at a time. Is it offensive because it takes too much from the culture without representing it properly, or is it not offensive because it does, or is it the opposite? It doesn't do that, and that's a problem.
well, the Iraqians, I guess, could have a Arabic feel to them, or they could have a Native American feel
Well,
to them.
some of the names for things, some of the words sound Arabic.
They do. Yeah, they
Uh,
do. I agree.
But
Yeah,
that was the point. He was aping desert culture.
he
Like,
was.
guys, those are the people from the desert as we would think of them, right? That's
Sure.
how they would think of them because a lot of them are. So he was using that as it's just easier to read because your brain automatically sees that.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't use
And
the word Islamic. I would use the word Arabic.
yes, well, because you see, they do this weird dance now where Islam is also a race somehow, because a lot of Arabs are Islamic, but they ignore the fact that the largest Islamic country in the world is an Arab.
No. Yeah, no, there's a separation. It
Yeah,
certainly has Arabic feels to it, but it doesn't have. I never got a feeling of religious connotations beyond the generic Messiah
yes.
that is in that, and there is a Messiah complex in it for sure.
But my
Uh,
point here is that this movie triggered them both ways because it doesn't pander to them. So they're trying desperately to find where they can be offended, and there's nothing. There's nothing. There's nothing there because it's just a movie that has a pretty cool concept, which has been told 1,000 times, of a messianic figure, but it does do it from a different angle where it's never really in question that he's this Messiah character. It's just him becoming this Messiah character over time, like fulfilling the role that he clearly is supposed to have. It's pretty much stated right at the beginning that he is that,
Yeah,
and that's fine because it's supposed to be.
that's what
That's
it
what
is.
the
Yeah.
story's like.
And no, Adrian, it's definitely Arabic, not Persian. Yeah, Persian
Yeah.
feel is very different. Yeah. But whatever. It's of course they do. Of course they do. Let me go back over and bring this back up again and go to our last story. But yeah, I'm not shocked at all. All right.
I
Uh,
just love it.
yeah.
I think that is the perfect encapsulation of how little power over the culture they actually retain, and how much it's slipping, and there's nothing they can do about it. Marvel leaks Jim Carrey as MODOK, Black Panther 2, She-Hulk, and Moon Knight.
Okay, Adrian. That's fine. But now this is a page of a bunch of different article leads that I just want to look at. I thought it was kind of interesting. Jim Carrey as Modoc, and it looks like he's going to do several different things in different movies. So it's almost as if Modoc is going to be like, how we were talking about who's going to be the main character, main villain, or who's going to be the mini boss, or what have you. It looks like they're putting Modoc in because he's going to show up in Black Panther 2. He's going to show up in She-Hulk and Moon Knight. So are those going to be in the story? They're going to be after mid-credit type of things. So Modoc is going to be a thing. All right, that's fine. He's a creation of AIM, of course. So if you guys don't know who he is, Jim Carrey as Modoc. Yes, please. I mean, okay, that's perfect.
Is he gonna be Trump MODOK? Because that would be
I'm
hilarious.
sure he
I
will
actually think
be.
that'd be hilarious. I'd
Yeah,
laugh at that. I'd be
yeah.
like, that's funny.
Well, Jim Carrey is an insane person who has a lot of personal demons. He does.
Yeah.
But he's also
Well,
really
you
good
have
at what
those
he
when you
does.
murder your ex girlfriend or
Yeah, I guess
fiance.
you would. Yeah, but he's
Yeah.
very good at what he does, dude. He's
Oh
very
yeah.
good. If you see him in that Sonic movie, it's the first thing I see in quite a while. He's great.
He is.
I
He's the
mean,
best part.
yeah, he is good at what he does. So him as Modoc, that could be fun, especially if he takes the angle of Modoc they've used recently, and he's more of kind of a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could
Well,
be
it's because
funny,
look at him. Of course, he's a joke.
right? But I don't have no problem with that whatsoever. I think that's kind of neat. But some of these other stories here talking about stuff I think was equally interesting. So let's get into that. Brie Larson shows off kinky boots. No, okay, fine. But
Oh
anyway,
boy.
so it looks like he's going to show up in a lot of stuff. Not only those, but it also mentioned he's going to be in the Ant-Man and Wasp movie. So it looks like he's going to be. I don't know if he's going to be the main bad guy, but at least the mini boss. So cool. Okay. Interesting. We got a little more information. We have another main bad guy we're going to see show up, and so this is an AIM thing they're going to be dealing with now. All right. Um, we also have them talking a little bit about She-Hulk here, and I think this is interesting because this is a Disney Plus series. We know they're going to go with the boring She-Hulk and not the cool She-Hulk. We know that. The lesbian, likes cooking shows She-Hulk, we're sure. But this is weird because Mark Ruffalo's Professor Hulk is being gotten rid of, thank God. And he's going back to be normal Hulk. And he gives Jennifer her blood transfusion, of course, his cousin, which ends up making her She Hulk. We know the story. But it also looks like that he's having trouble transforming into the Hulk. He's having difficulties becoming Hulk again, which for Bruce Banner would be great, right? Because Bruce
Yeah,
Banner hates being the Hulk, right? So,
that's
but
right.
not in this one. So much so that he's actually turns into the Hulk to help teach her how to fight. Now, if you remember the comic books, he was beside himself devastated that Jennifer got his Hulkism, right? Because he hates the Hulk. Bruce Banner hates the Hulk. Do they not
Yeah.
get that?
Apparently not. Apparently not.
Apparently not. But he's so overjoyed with being the Hulk that he really, really wants to be able to transform in the Hulk, but he's having trouble. But he helps teach her to become the Hulk because, yay, she's a Hulk too now. Yay. Really? All right. All righty then. Okay. Titania is going to come in. We already talked about that, which is fine. But I just don't get this. You get what I'm
I don't
saying,
either.
right?
I do. They completely misunderstand Hulk, and that's a tragedy. In fact, it's such a tragedy. I wish they would have killed him off in the Thanos stuff, because Thanos could have done it and had it stick,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
didn't. I mean,
The,
it would have. There was a multiple different ways they could have done it, but it's because they just don't get Hulk. They
now,
clearly just don't get Hulk.
but they used to though, because when we first saw him introduced into the MCU, he didn't want anything to do with it because he understands the danger of the Hulk. So they
Yes.
originally they understood Banner, and now they've forgotten Banner, and then they don't
Well, you have to
understand who he
also
is.
remember they desperately need to prop up this female Hulk so she can replace him,
Right.
because that's obviously the goal here.
Sure.
So they need him for that. So everything for the cause, everything for the mission, everything for
Sure.
the agenda, everything for the the nonsense, um, including all forms of rational, logical, consistent characters. Because Hulk hasn't really made much sense since Ragnarok. Like it's been all over the place. He was
Yeah.
far too
Very
human in
weird.
Ragnarok with no explanation. He just was suddenly. He was just basically a big dude. Um, it, it's a problem, and it's a problem they're obviously not going to fix. They're just going to make worse because now Bruce wants to be the Hulk.
It seems
When
like
if he transformed out of the Hulk back to a human form, he would be happy. He'd be elated if he, especially if he couldn't go back. Whereas when they had the chance to do this story and make it make sense, where in Infinity War he got stomped out, and then he couldn't transform because Hulk wouldn't transform. He was no, he wouldn't come out. You could have done that in Endgame and told that story. Instead, you completely fucking
right.
skipped all of it,
They did. Yeah.
and went to Professor Hulk for no reason.
Yeah,
Why?
and I don't mind the Professor Hulk character, but that's not that is a thing of the past. They've gotten rid of that. And read this little line right here. It claims that Banner struggles to transform to Hulk again, and Jennifer helps him relearn how.
Yeah, she's got to teach him. You see,
Yeah,
because
she's
he's a
got to
stupid
educate
man.
him,
You see,
right?
he's
Uh,
just one of the smartest people in the universe. But he's dumb.
yeah,
Got to relearn.
yeah, yeah. Black Panther Wakanda. Here we're going to be. Or it looks like they're building up the authority. Spoilers, I guess. But the Eternals ending destroys the ocean. Nice spoiler there. Thank you. So somehow the Eternals destroy Earth's ocean. Great heroes.
Which
We
aggravates Namor. I think it would
You
have
would
been.
think it would,
What?
maybe
Just a bit.
a little,
He's a little peeved.
a little bit. Yeah. Uh, so
How
okay.
does one destroy an ocean? Can we? How how does one do that?
I don't know, but they manage it. Okoye wears a Black Panther suit at some point, but is not the full time Black Panther. So who is then?
I would say if you're not going to do the Killmonger thing, and by all accounts they're not,
No,
um,
Shuri.
she would probably be the one. She's the general lady, right?
Yeah,
That would make the most sense. I mean, she's a warrior. She was his most trusted person in his life, right? Like his assistant and everything, his second. Why wouldn't it be her? If it's not going to be his sister, which is probably who is going to be, uh, which I don't want. I don't think anybody really wants that. The one that makes the most sense looking at it from like what the Black Panther is, because the Black Panther isn't just something that the king gets to do for fun. It's a
it's a
responsibility.
responsibility. Yeah, that's right.
Why would you give it to her when you have this warrior who already does the same job basically? Just let her do it, and then she could train Shuri to take her place.
And maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
But I don't care. And I don't care anything about it. And guarantee you, a Shuri Black Panther is not going to be anywhere as popular as Wakanda Forever, even though that's the name of the movie.
Yeah.
It's not going to be. But anyway, okay. But it also mentions here that Dwayne Johnson wants a Marvel role. Well, he's Black Adam. And it claims that He was doing his Black Adam on the stage right next to Black Panther 2, and he was on the set frequently. That doesn't mean anything. That means that maybe he had some friends over there, and he's freaking Dwayne Johnson can go to wherever the hell he wants,
Yep.
right? I mean, who's going to say, "Oh, sorry, Mr. Rock, you're not allowed on this set"? Who's going to say that? Nobody. Right? So I don't know if that means anything, but whatever. Let's speculate off of that for half a second, though. Him as Black Adam is perfect. It's great. What Marvel character would you make him?
Ooh.
I mean, you know,
Ooh.
who would he be?
Hmm. Without a race swap, or is a race swap permitted?
Sure. He's the neutral brown anyway, so he can be whatever race he wants to be.
Neutral brown. I like that. um, that's tough, man. I mean, without the X-Men being established, I don't know. With the X-Men established, and we're doing a race swap, you could do a couple. You could do Colossus. You could do Beast because he's a big boy, so he needs to be a big boy. You could do Juggernaut. But I would assume they're going to use the same CGI Juggernaut they did in the Deadpool movies if they're going to use Juggernaut again. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's tough. You'd need a big brawny guy. He could make, because I don't know. You'd have to put the prosthetics on him, but he could be Thing.
Could be
that we wouldn't even necessarily need too much of a race swap.
I Ben don't Grimm's think he would be cousin. A good Ben Grimm though.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Think about it. He could be more like The Rock, the wrestler.
He's the jabroni. He's not Ben Grimm.
I don't know. I think he could. I mean, he might be able to do it. Probably not, though. You're probably right here.
Yeah.
He would have made a great Thanos, actually. As far as physically, he would have nailed that. I don't know who else has that imposing stature. Because I'm thinking he'd make more sense as a villain. Because they have enough. Well. And again, they do need somebody to carry the damn franchise. Whew, that's tough, man.
That's a tough one, dude. Tough. I can't place him either. So I don't know. But
he's great as Black Adam. Oh, that's great casting.
That is perfect.
He looks good.
It is perfect. Yeah. He's a perfect neutral brown for it. Now moving on to Moon Knight news. Now this is being filmed already, as far as I understand. Blade Mahershala Ali will be who's the new Blade, which he could be good. He will appear in the Moon Knight series. And of course, Dracula is the major villain. So it looks like they are doing this like Marvel Dark, and it's involving Dracula, which is why because in all these Marvel stuff, Dracula is going to be in the dark stuff like Blade and Moon Knight and such, which is why I felt that because of that collaboration, Morbius, there might be some connection to that. It would be perfect, but who knows? Okay, so Dracula, that's news. That's interesting. They've hired some major Egyptian actor, whatever that means, to be Khonshu. Okay.
They're big movies in Egypt that I'm not aware of. That's a big deal over there.
Well, actually, in that part of the world, the best movie making studio is in Turkey, and they do put out some good stuff. Yeah, no, the Turkish put out some pretty good stuff, actually. I've watched many Turkish movies and recently and TV series. They've improved a lot. They used to be really bad, but it's improved radically. I don't know anything about Egyptian's major actor, but whatever. You need it though. Khonshu is an Egyptian, so cool.
Yeah.
Oscar Isaacs, Mark Spector. Oh, I still can't believe that. All right, so. The decimation of Xandar. It is said that flashbacks from the decimation of Xandar at the start of the Avengers Infinity War will be featuring in the Guardian of the Galaxy 3 and the Marvels, and that John C. Reilly's Corpsman Day has survived. I don't know what any of that means. Do you know what any of that means?
I don't. Also, a Nova movie is currently rumored.
Yeah.
It says down there at the bottom. Adrian does make a good point. I was thinking this too. You could make him be Sentinel, The Rock. He could probably pull off a good Sentinel. He's very imposing.
Maybe. maybe. I don't know.
Sentinel, you could do a Hyperion with him. Uh,
Yeah, but
the
that's too
problem
much
is,
Black Adam, dude.
that's what I was just gonna say. It's too much like Black Adam. Uh, I don't know. Honestly, I think the best bet is for him to just not be in it. Just keep him out of the MCU. Let him stay in the DC universe.
Yeah,
Give him his damn Superman versus Black Adam movie once, because I
please.
want it to.
Yeah.
And let him and Henry Cavill just go in there and just listen. You don't have to do much. All right, Black Adam's here. Oh, Superman. Bam. We don't need much more story than this, guys. It'll
It
sell. It's
it
freaking
will.
Rock and
And you know what
Cavill.
you do is you make it either two movies or a trilogy, and you have
Yeah,
Henry get his ass just cleaned in the first movie,
yeah.
and you have some that Black Adam's doing something, and over the course of a couple of movies, Superman is trying to defeat him, and in the end he wins. Something like that would be great, right?
Well, you
Um,
could also have Shazam, the real Captain Marvel, be involved too.
you can.
So you have, because they've done that in an animated movie where they team up against Black Adam, and then you can come up with some way to explain why Black Adam's been powered up and he's done some nonsense, or there's all different ways to do it. And especially since Superman's vulnerable to magic, it'd be great. It could be great. We could finally maybe get Henry Cavill as Superman properly. But we
Yeah.
can't have nice things, Chester. We're
No,
not
we
allowed.
can't. We're not allowed. That is true. But anyway, that's what I have for today. Some interesting conversations, I think. Some silliness, but this over here, what's going on with this dark universe? I don't know what they haven't called it that. I'm just calling that, but it's what it looks like. It's there's some interesting things going on there. Proper MCU, no. Um, but it is what it is, and I know Jim Carrey is insufferable, but he'd probably be awesome in this role, dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, there you go. Mr. Adrian has had a lot to say. He's angsty today. He's very angsty.
But
Oh well, that's okay. But nevertheless, you got anything else to add?
nope, not really. I was just going to say one little thing. You were talking about, being a master, and one of the things I had written up for my book. One of the characters, I haven't decided which, but one of the characters at one point is going to say something about that, and they're going to say the master is not the one who completes their training. The master is the one who never stops.
Yeah, no, it's true. It is true. Thank you, Adrian. But yeah, no, that is true. Mastering a thing, it takes 10,000 hours to do it. That's the
Minimum.
reality, minimum. But
Yeah,
becoming a master of something is the beginning of doing it,
that's right.
actually. And there's plenty of people in this world that understand that. They're the ones who get everything done. And
Yeah.
whilst they're getting everything done, these little lazy bastards up there shooting their mouth off left and right. Now, this is nothing new. The problem is we need to stop listening to the idiots and start appreciating the people who have mastered the things that keep us alive, right?
Yes.
I mean, think about this, how little respect a farmer gets, or a plumber, or an electrician. Look at all these things you see every day. I see stuff coming up with women bitching about something, right? Every damn day, right? And they want their six-figure man, and they're going on and on and on about all these plastic fake things. And if you're a plumber and an electrician, they don't even want to look at you, even though those guys make great money consistently
Oh, they
throughout
make
their life.
insane money.
Uh,
Insane money.
and yet, right? These people are way more important than any of these things you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And that's a problem we have in the world, and it's always been a problem. It's nothing new. We just need to get back to a larger percentage of people giving respect where it's actually due, right?
Yes.
Adrian says, "Fuck you, Chester." All right, thank you very much. And Roger says, "Everyone stay blessed." So very nice. See, we go from psycho to nice guy.
All right, let's get out of here,
All
Chester.
right,
Let's get out of here.
later, everybody.
Later.
Oh, I have to change my thing first. I made a mistake, so
You got to
it'll
hit the
take a
button. You got
second.
to hit the right button. Yeah.
No, I have to change over to my outro, which I'm doing right now. But
Uh-oh.
no one's going to notice though, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so now I've done that. Now I come back over here and I